Yeah. Can you move to the first slide? Yeah, as said, today our topic is on the stages of prenatal development. So what is prenatal? Do anyone of you know what is the difference between prenatal and postnatal? Can you hear me? Am I
Yes,
audible?
you're audible, ma'am.
So prenatal is a condition that is before birth, and postnatal is immediately after birth. So that is the difference between both. And prenatal, it can also be called as antenatal. Okay. So another word is that, do you know what is conception?
Conception. Yes, ma'am. Like how,
Oh,
like we use certain methods to like not to get pregnant. So
that
all
is
those
that is
things are called.
contraception. That is contraception.
Okay,
This is
conception.
so
Means the
conception.
fertilization stage, man. The embryo gets fertilized. Is that the
Yes, yes,
stage?
yes, yes. Yes, that's what.
Pregnant.
But it's not embryo, it's that when a sperm and an ovum comes in contact with each other, that is not, and it gets fertilized. So there are many sperms coming, and only one sperm gets attached to the ovum, and that is what we call conception. Okay. So, and that get fertilized. So we'll start with the first slide. And this is prenatal development. That means a single fertilized egg, as we all know, it will develops into a complex organism. That means it becomes, initially it's just one cell. And later it will develop into a very big, like a very complex organism. So the period of time from conception to birth is considered as pregnancy. As I told earlier, from the fertilized, or that means the sperm and the egg or the ovum get fertilized, that is known as conception. From that period to the birth, it is known as human gestation or the pregnancy period of a woman. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Normally, there are two conditions, that is full term and preterm. Full term means it is the it means that the baby gets full term from when it's like after when they enter the pregnancy. Some get delivered within 37 to 41 weeks. I think many of you are mothers know what it is.
Yes,
Like,
ma'am.
so if it is before 37 weeks, we call them as preterm babies, or it's a preterm pregnancy. Okay. And in Western countries, there are many conditions that it goes beyond 42 weeks. So that is termed as, yes, like 41, 42, that is termed as post-term. Okay. So the ideal time to get delivered is between 37 to 41 weeks. That means normal delivery can happen. But in case
Okay.
of preterm and in case of postterm, as the weeks proceeds more, what happens is that the chances of C-section is more. Because the if it's 42 weeks, you could just imagine how big the baby will be. Okay. Now we'll move on to the next slide. So, what are the stages of prenatal development? So, as you all know, it's more than 9 months, like it's between 9 and 10 months, we consider a pregnancy. So, it can be characterized according to two ways. Either, first way is that we can divide the pregnancy into 3 trimesters. That is the first trimester, the second trimester, and the third trimester. And each trimester, it consists of 3 months. That means the first 3 months comes under the first trimester. Second trimester means the next 3 months. And the third trimester consists of the rest 3 months. Okay. And when we consider the growing organism or the baby, it can be considered into 3 periods. This is the second way of differentiating. Okay. That is, it can be known as the zygote, embryo, and the fetus. This is the 3 modes of development of a baby. So initially, after immediately after the fertilization, as we said earlier, that after the conception, the organism is known as zygote. So when it undergoes many cell divisions, later it moves on to as an embryo, and later after 8th to 9th week, till the birth we call them as a fetus, and after delivery we call them as a baby. Okay, and already fed. Okay, now we'll just move on to the next slide. Okay, as I told earlier, it begins when the fertilized ovum, which we call the zygote, have you seen the pic of a uterus like fallopian tube? You know that?
Yes,
Have you seen?
ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Fallopian tubes.
Yes. So the ovum is there in the fallopian tubes. When the sperm enters, it gets, as I told, they gets connected, and this zygote, this ovum and this sperms forms the zygote after fertilization. So it makes down the way through the fallopian tube, and they move towards the uterus, the center part. So,
Okay.
yeah. And on the way through the process, what happens is that it undergoes multiple cell division. Initially, it was just one cell. On moving, it gets divided, and it forms a very big, keeps on continuing, and it keeps on getting the cell division. And by the 4th day, that means after conception, by the 4th day, the zygote, it develops into 50 cells. As you can see in this picture, it moves into a 50 cell pack. It will reach from one cell, it will reach to the 50 cells. Okay. And this complete, okay, the previous slide that I was speaking. Yeah, in this picture, can you see the picture? Blastocyst picture?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes.
Right.
So, this is completely formed. That means it consists of many cells after rapid cell division. And this is completely known as the blastocyst in a zygote, okay?
Okay.
So it can be divided into two parts. That means now you can go to the next slide.
Ma'am, I have a doubt here. We have two fallopian tubes, right? That gets to the uterus. So it can be formed in any of the tubes?
Yeah, any of the
How-
tubes it can be formed. It won't go to both the tubes. It comes from any of the tubes and it enters the uterus.
Okay, okay.
So see, it's like the cells inside the blastocyst, as you have seen before. Can you show the previous slide? Previous one. Yeah, this is the blastocyst. That means multiple cell divisions occurred, and you can see an inner cell mass and an outer trophoblast. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Okay, ma'am.
this inner cell mass, it later it becomes the embryo. Okay.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the outermost trophoblast layer, it forms the protection to the embryo.
Okay. The liquid that we say,
Yeah,
there
that
is some
liquid,
fluid.
that amniotic fluid, the amnion, everything comes inside
Okay.
in the trophoblast, and the inner cell
Okay.
mass. This will completely get into the embryonic phase. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now move on to the next slide. Okay. So that is what I said, like cells inside the blastocyst, it moves into it is a form called embryonic disc, and this develops into a embryo. And the next thing is that the outermost trophoblast, it develops into a structure that support and protect the baby before birth. That means before birth, it's completely protected inside that mass. So we have reached till, and now when it comes to 7th and 9th day, that means always the count is taken after the conception. That means after the fertilization. Okay.
Okay.
from conception of between 7 and 9 days, this blastocyst begins process of attack. And this blastocyst, it moves to the uterine wall. It reaches down and it gets attached to the wall. And this is what we call implantation. Okay.
Okay.
See, as I told, this blastocyst, it will develop into embryo. That is a later thing, okay? That means once it get implanted only, this will develop into such structures.
Okay, ma'am. Got it.
So the process of attaching of the blastocyst into the uterine wall is what we call implantation. That is a very important term.
Implantation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens gradually is that the zygote, now we can call them as zygote because they are not developed into an embryo, okay? What
Okay.
happens is that the zygote, there will be tendrils or there will be structures outside. So, and these structures, they get connected with the blood vessels of the uterus.
Okay.
So that, from that time, the relationship from the between the mother and the baby starts after implantation.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
But still there is the outer covering, right? The
Yes, as
dicoblast.
I said, that 50 cell form is coming till the implantation.
Okay. Yeah.
And after implantation, these structures, inner structure moves to zygote, and the outer structure, it moves into the other kind of structures known as chorion, amnion, and all.
Okay.
We'll see that in the next page. Okay, next. Okay, this is what implantation means. Can you see this upper layer is, you can see endometrium, and this upper layer that you can see in the cream color is what we call the uterine wall, okay? And this gets attached to the, and this trophoblast and this inner cell mass, what we call the zygote, get attached to the uterine wall. That is what is shown in this picture. Can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Now the next one. So what is now we reached till the zygote. Now we are moving to the embryonic phase. Okay. And last from implantation, it is from the implantation through the 8th week of pregnancy is what we called embryo. Okay.
Okay.
Because it gets developed into the embryo until the 8th week of pregnancy. That means around 2 months.
2 months. Yeah.
Till that, we call them as embryo. And by the end of the 2nd week, okay, now it's like, again, we are moving on to back towards back. And what is happening is they are just explaining. From the end of 2nd week, this trophoblast form another protective membrane. I told that trophoblast will move on to another structures. So this trophoblast, it moves to other structures known as a very protective membrane, which is known as chorion, which is surrounded by amnion. So basically, there are 2 layers forming, amnion and chorion. Both are protective layers of the embryo. Okay, you can see in this picture, the outer layer chorion and the inner layer amnion, and inside you can see the embryo. And
Yes,
the other
ma'am.
structures, yeah, and the other structures are just coming, okay? From this chorion means the outermost part, there are finger-like structures. This is known as villi.
Okay.
And this villi emerges, and these get inside the, it gets connected with the uterine wall. In the uterine wall. And from that, it is, placenta is getting developed. You know, the most outermost cover that you can see after delivery, I think you have seen that. The
Yes,
outermost
ma'am.
layer that we have seen. Yeah. So this placenta is made of chorion and amnion. And that
Okay.
is the outermost layer. That is why people are saying that we are just delivering two times. That means immediately after the baby, we are delivering the placenta also out.
Okay.
Yeah, usually normal delivery people might have seen that. C-section, I don't think they'll see that. Even I was C-section, so I have not seen my own.
Me also.
Yeah, so we'll move on to the next one.
A portion of it that remains with the baby, no, ma'am, after the delivery.
That
That's
is
where
that is umbilical
okay,
cord.
that is umbilical cord. Okay.
Yeah. So this is again, we are continuing with the period of embryo. Okay. By bringing the mothers and the embryo's blood close together, the baby, that means the embryo and the uterine wall is connected now. And what happens is that this connection permits the food and oxygen to reach the developing baby. Okay. So after we eat, our oxygen and our food is passes through this wall only, this connected wall.
Yeah.
And the waste products from the baby is carried out through the same process, the same way only. So
Okay.
there is an exchange of waste products and intake of food and oxygen to the baby. Okay.
Can you
And
repeat that, ma'am? How is the waste management happening?
yeah,
Of the
as I told earlier, that the outermost part of the placenta, that means placenta is connected to the uterine wall, and there is a connection between the two. So that connection, it can be is connected to and this, as you told earlier, it is connected through the developing organism through the umbilical cord.
Okay.
Through this umbilical cord, you can see in the next, can you move to the next slide? I'll just tell you once more. So umbilical cord is how, in that umbilical cord, there is one large vein and two arteries present.
Okay.
So through that large vein, the blood is loaded with nutrients. That means the food that we eat, the nutrients that is get bought are delivered through the baby, through the large vein of the umbilical cord that is present in the placenta, and it is connected to the baby.
Okay.
So, and we have two arteries also in the umbilical cord, and that removes the waste products. So
Okay.
this is the connection. Okay.
Got it, ma'am.
Okay, next one. And wait 1 second. And it is a very small structure, as you have seen. That means once it get implanted, it is a very small structure. And as you know that after birth, it is a very long thing that we have to cut it. That means it will grow to a length of 1 to 3 feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Sometimes
we'll cut.
it gets stuck in between the neck and all.
Yeah. It will get, it means it will loop around the head.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Next.
why that happened, ma'am? This loop around the head, this umbilical cord.
Yes,
Maybe.
umbilical cord, this stroke gets, what happens is that if we are trying a normal delivery, if we are pulling out the baby, it sometimes there is a chance of tightening inside the head, or it can cause many problems. So it's
Movements,
better.
ma'am. No, ma'am. The baby would be moving inside with hands and
Yeah.
all. So
The baby would be moving, and at the time of birth, it will be at the same time, it will be like it will come out. When it comes out, what happens? There are many chances of complications that can occur. That breaks. So in some cases, even if in the second trimester and all, some babies, they will be having this cord around the loop, but what happens later, it may move out. That means the baby becomes normal. So chances of normal delivery are more in that cases. If it still persists, there are many cases that 2 or 3 cords, it can come around the neck. So it's better to do the C-section in that cases.
yeah.
So the next slide. So this is I have told you earlier that from initially I have told in zygote, the zygote, it is divided into the zygote, the trophoblast, sorry, the inner cell mass, it gets into an form of embryonic disc first of all. And then it moves on to an embryo. So this embryo is divided into 3 layers, okay? This the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Initially, that is a very small structure. That means it is getting developed only. So this is just 3 layers of a structure. And what happens is that ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. And this ectoderm is the thing that develops into nervous system. That means brain, skin, and all will get developed from the ectoderm layer. The mesoderm, it gets developed into muscles, skeleton, that means the bones, circulatory system, that means the blood vessels, and the other internal organs are formed from the mesoderm layer. And finally, the endoderm is known as the digestive system. That means the digestive system, like esophagus, stomach, everything gets developed from that. Then later, there are lungs, urinary tract, and glands. So this is the feature. That means the embryo, initially before developing, it is divided into 3 layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Ectoderm, it develops into a nervous system and skin. Mesoderm, it's muscles, skeleton, circulatory system, and other kind of internal organs. And endoderm, it's the digestive system, lungs, urinary tract, and glands. Okay. Finally, these layers, it give rise to all the parts of the body. Okay.
Okay.
Next. I think there is a photo for that. Yeah, this is what was initially at about 15 days. This is what I've seen. Like within 2 weeks, the structure of embryo is this. That means we have an ectoderm, we have a mesoderm, and we have an endoderm. And this gets developed into further. Okay. Okay, the next slide.
This is like in 8 weeks, no, ma'am? Like the state.
No, this is
happens
within
in
2
8
weeks. This is within 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
Within 2 weeks.
Okay.
After this, the embryo is getting developed, and after 8 weeks, it is called fetus. Within 8 weeks, it is called embryo itself. Okay. So the period of embryo, that may again, it is in the period of embryo. So till we are speaking about till 8 weeks. Okay. And first is the development of the brain. As we said, ectoderm, it develops into a brain. And at this time, it is the embryonic period is the critical time in the development of the brain. And as you have, because at that time only the brain and the spinal cord is developing. And the nervous system means brain and spinal cord. It develops the fastest. So you might have heard that if we go to a gynecologist after pregnancy, before pregnancy, to get to know that you're pregnant, you might have heard that you should be very careful within the 3 months. First 3 months, you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Because it's a very critical time that you can have a miscarriage if there is something. So at this embryonic period, that means within 2 months, there is development of brain and spinal cord that is happening.
Okay.
Okay. And next slide. And after that, the heart begins to pump blood. After the formation of the nervous system, the heart begins to. So if it's an early pregnancy, that means you're just doubting that you're pregnant. And if you go to the hospital in the first 4th week, from 4th to 6th week, if you go, if the doctor scans and they can feel the fetal heart sound at that time. Sorry, the heart sound of the embryo you can hear at that time in the 4th week, 6th week and all. So at that time, the baby will be very little only, but still the heart sounds can be heard because the heart begins to pump blood within the 4th week.
Okay.
And also along with that, muscles, backbone, ribs, and digestive tract, everything appear, as I've told earlier, that 3 layers get developed. And during the first month, eyes, ear, nose, and arms just begin to form only. Other things gets developed and this just begin to form. And by the first month, the embryo, that is just, you can just imagine, it's just a 1/4 inch long. That means that tiny, consists of millions of organized group of cell with special function. That means these structures are fully developed in that 1/4 inch long organism. So that
Oh
is
my
just
goodness.
yeah. Now next
Yeah.
one. Yeah, and the first month is this one, but it is very tiny. It's like the macroscopic view. You
Like
can
a
see
bean
the
size, ma'am? Bean size?
yeah, bean size, very like 1/4 inch, very small.
Bean size.
Yeah, you can see the face, the amniotic sac, as told earlier, the outer part, the embryo, and you can see the placenta. Okay. Yes, this is the placenta. Placenta side you can see, and this gets attached to the uterine wall. Side. Okay.
Okay.
Now, next slide. So now we have gone through 4 weeks, and by about the 6th week, the age of embryo begins to look recognizably like a human. By 6th week, it gets developed, and finally, it looks like a human. And the head, which was tipped forward, as you have seen in the previous picture, it's tipped forward. It will move backward as we have our head. And at this point of time, head is very larger relative to the other parts of the body. And the upper body itself is very much larger to the lower part of the body. Okay. And small arms are visible on which ridges that will become fingers. That means a small creature for the hands are available there. Like the fingers are not formed at that point of time. It's just 2 arms that we can see. I think there is a picture I've uploaded. Can you move to the next slide? Yeah, this is the arm. The fingers are just forming, and you can see that the compared to the lower part, the upper part is much, and you can see the brain getting developed.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, and this is in the sixth week. Okay, from 6th week. Okay, coming to the next slide. So the fetal period, I think this is the end of the embryo, that by 6th to 8th week, we'll get to the end. And there is no much changes in that features. They are fully developed into different kinds of, they've got organs, everything. So the thing is that they just have to get developed. So by 8th week, they rename them as fetus. Okay, and it will last until the birth. This will be called as fetus. So from 8 to 12 weeks, the fetus, it grows to about 3 inches in length. So you can just imagine from 1/4 inch, by 12th week, it will grow into 3 inches in length. And you might know that in 12th week, we'll have a scan known as NT scan. At that time, we'll get to know if the baby is having any kind of Down syndrome or something. I think if you are, any of you are recently a mother. Okay,
Yes,
fine.
ma'am, we
And
get to like their organs and all. They check whether
tell-
all the organs of the baby is
no, that is the
fine.
5th. Yeah, everything is fine, but we'll get to know that if the baby is having any kind of chromosomal anomalies, that is like any chromosomes and all. And at this age, after being a fetus, the activity levels are very high. That means earlier it is like immobile, they won't move much. By 9th week and all, the fetus can hiccup. And even they can